Okay, porn addictions, relation to imposter syndrome. I'm hoping that we're going to be covering some good bases here. Hopefully there's going to be some missing links that are going to pop off in some of your guys' heads. If you're not used to this channel or used to BCA content, hopefully this video will be a good intro and a good segue into the world of BCA by highlighting some fundamentals. So if you're new here, I'm Joe. I was in a porn addiction for about 17 years of my life, and I was trying to quit for about 9 of those years. Gone through the whole NoFap arc around 2016 when I first started doing replacement behaviors, therapy, exercise routines, journaling, meditation, therapy, the stuff that we all typically try when we try to stop a pornography addiction. And because after 4 years of trying that stuff, which didn't work, it doesn't work for a lot of people, but after those 4 years of trying, I went down the route of going into the paid program route. So I took on 2 other paid programs within the next 4 years, and unfortunately they didn't enable me to get the result that I wanted to stop pornography addiction, and most importantly, stay stopped. So this all changed in 2025 when I met Tom Molyneux and Mary Paulus, who taught me what's known as the Beyond Compulsion method, a method that directly focuses on what we call addicted neural pathways, rewiring them, enabling the rewiring of these pathways in order to use a simple strategy, use simple mental models to stop and, most importantly, stay stopped. And I've never looked back since. I'm now an affiliate for them. Now I'm trying to get this method out there because ultimately this was the method that worked for me and many other guys that have since then joined the program and have found success, living a life of integrity, not worrying about a porn addiction anymore, understanding that they've got the tools and the ability to go through the rest of my life without worrying about this problem anymore, living a life with that sense of permanent mental freedom. So yeah guys, the topic of the video, imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is something very common if you're in the technical field. It's very common amongst people in my profession, being in computer programming, being in technical jobs, growing in skills in any technical field really. There's this common theme of imposter syndrome, and it happens throughout the whole sort of ladder of skill levels, whether you're junior to senior to even higher than that. Imposter syndrome is a very common mental model that is prevalent within the whole spectrum of the technical field, whatever you're working in. And although it is something common and it is something that is generally sort of accepted, on a mental level there can be a lot of conflict involved within yourself. The problem is that even though you have this concept of imposter syndrome, it's something at work that you sort of laugh about perhaps and joke about, saying, oh yeah, imposter syndrome, yeah, I have it, yeah, he has it, oh don't worry, it's normal. The issue here is that when you have imposter syndrome, there is unfortunately more often than not that this sense of imposter syndrome expands into other areas of your life, and this is where the problem starts. And this tends to be where the theme of compulsion comes into the picture, and typically this is very common when you're in compulsive behavior such as compulsive pornography behavior, pornography addiction, even smoking, even compulsive thinking, which we're going to get onto in this video. And hopefully this is going to be the sort of angle which is going to set some light bulbs off in your head. So before BCA, I didn't really understand this concept of addicted neural pathways or compulsive behavior. Therefore, I wasn't really problem aware of what was actually going on the mental level. So in BCA, in the Beyond Compulsion method, the main thing that gets focused on with the training, with the tools such as the 5-fact script, such as 5 weekly group calls, is that the main work is done on the mental level. And I think what happens is when we get into methods like NoFap, perhaps even other paid programs, is there's this notion where we're kind of focusing on other things that we're trying to use as vectors to indirectly solve porn addiction. So for example, we're using things such as self-improvement on our fitness, on our dating lives, on our professional lives, growing businesses, etc. Or perhaps we're focusing on mindfulness, meditation, understanding thought patterns and thinking patterns and watching them in real time and trying to get sort of this mental position where we can find a root cause to the behavior and analyze what's going on there. Or in another instance, and this kind of relates more to the nofap side of things, is where we're focusing on things such as what's happening on the level of dopamine, on the level of cortisol, how's my stress levels, all of this stuff. And although that there's some surface benefit to looking at all this stuff, and like I said about the self-improvement stuff, yes, this is beneficial to your life in general, your general well-being, your growth in life, your experience of living a better life, it isn't directly addressing and targeting the addictive mechanism, the actual point of focus that needs to be focused on when addressing a porn addiction, or any compulsive behavior for that matter. Like I said, whether it's smoking, whether it's compulsive thinking, the concept within the Beyond Compulsion method is the same. We apply the method, the tools, the philosophy to any compulsive behavior. Yes, Beyond Compulsion Academy specializes in solving pornography addiction. However, the concept applies to the majority of compulsive behaviors. And what happens is a lot of guys who enter the program for porn initially will end up stopping smoking, will end up stopping drinking, will end up stopping other compulsive behaviors as a result of learning these methods, learning these mental models, in order to get into the attacking mental stance of facing porn addiction from an offensive stance, and being able to choose to stop from a position of strength and power and of clarity. Right, to get onto the imposter syndrome stuff. So imposter syndrome, along with other thoughts within the whole sphere of being in an addiction, thoughts such as, I'm not strong enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not in a great position here to sort of perform or succeed or get over this problem or stop pornography, stop my addictive behavior, or stop me overthinking. All of these thoughts, as I'm even saying it, yeah, it definitely gets on top of you. So what we find is that when we're in experience, when we're in the full-time experience of being in a pornography addiction, we have all these different thoughts, all these different thinking patterns invoked by these addicted neural pathways. Now, when I say addicted neural pathways, what I mean is that we've been engaging in pornography over years and years and years, since we were a kid, since we were 12 or 13, or perhaps even younger, 8 or 9, and we've been repeating the same behavior over and over and over and over again, whereby we've developed all these different thinking patterns after, relapsing, after engaging, where we've gone into this negative mood, we've gone into this shame cycle, we've gone into this sense of not feeling good enough, feeling undoubtful, feeling unsure of ourselves, because we sort of engage in a behavior which on the surface it's like, well, I want to do this, I want to engage in this behavior, it feels good, but then after the fact, it doesn't feel good, we feel all these negative feelings, all these negative emotions, and it gets to the point where, once we try to stop, we're in a mental position where we put stopping pornography on such a big pedestal that it's all we're trying to think about, it's all we're trying to achieve, and it becomes our goal to stop. But we haven't addressed all these other mental models that we've adopted throughout the years that we've developed and been engaging in, whether we're aware of our engagement in those thinking patterns or not, over these years, over and over and over and over again. So the train of thoughts hasn't stopped, yet we're then trying to stop and trying to put that as a goal, and all these things are coming together. And this is one of the root causes of thinking patterns such as imposter syndrome, stemming from the position of being in a pornography addiction. Of course, other things in life can happen where perhaps this belief, this conditional belief of being in imposter syndrome can happen. But if you've been in a pornography addiction for a long time, you can sure as hell bet that you've had it and experienced it on some sort of level. And it's not necessarily that it's your doing, that it's your fault. You've tried to stop, you've tried to get your head around this problem, but most likely you just had the wrong way, the wrong tools, the wrong sort of methodology pertaining to stopping and staying stopped. So if we look at some of these thinking patterns here, we've got, after we've relapsed, we've got stuff as, we've got these thoughts coming in our head, such as thinking back before you're engaging, you're thinking, right, I like to engage. Now, this can bring up a lot of tension, because this can bring up a lot of mental tension, because a lot of us are like, well, I don't like to engage because of what happens after engaging. It's sort of like, I don't want to engage because I don't want to feel the consequences. The reality is, if we don't like to engage, or we didn't want to engage, we wouldn't be engaging in it. On some level, on a certain level, you do like to engage in porn. There is a reward to be gained from it, that being getting out of temporary discomfort of withdrawal. Yes, if we were in a porn addiction, we do in fact like to engage. But then we have this sort of counter thought that comes in and says, I can't engage because of XYZ, XYZ. I can't engage because I've got a meeting later. I can't engage because I'm seeing my wife later. I can't engage because I'm trying to keep a nofap streak. We've got all these reasons in our head which seem rational, which seem well-meaning on the surface, but then when we follow on to the next thought, as a result of going into the next thought block, we get into these feelings of deprivation. Deprivation being a topic that I'll link above by Tom and Mary. They'll explain this, they'll explain why deprivation thinking is problematic when you're trying to overcome this. Give that a watch, and quite frankly, keep on watching that content by Beyond Compulsion Academy. I did that when I first started, and you will learn a lot. But on top of that, it's the conflict, the constant mental conflict of, yes, I want to engage, but you don't want to engage. A lot of shame and guilt stem from that position. We all experience that. And so we're in this cognitive dissonance of being in the addiction. We told ourselves we'd stop, but we're not stopping because we like engaging, but we don't like engaging because we don't want to engage because of the negative consequences. You can see this is getting very heavy. This is a symptom of being in the addiction. It's just how the neural pathways at this point are wired. It is absolutely temporary, and it can be unwired with the right training, with the right tools, with the right methodology. Next one, helplessness. Because you've told yourself over and over again that you stop engaging, you feel a bit helpless because you believe that there's no way out. You believe at this point that there's no way out because you've engaged again, and you've told yourself again that I'm going to stop, I'm going to try again to stop, and then lo and behold, you fail again. You get into this, understandably, this feeling of helplessness, and then the thought pattern that stems from that is, well, I'm just an unreliable person. I tried to keep my word and I broke it again. Tried to keep my word and I broke it again. I said I'd stop, I broke my word again, and therefore you just feel this feeling of, well, I'm not reliable, I can't keep my word. Understandable. But again, we're in this wiring which isn't benefiting us. We need to be rewired into the right way of thinking. Lack of self-trust, another big one. Makes sense again. Lack of self-trust due to the fact again that you've got past your blocker, that your program that you were on, you couldn't stick to it, or you felt that you couldn't stick to it, and you ended up relapsing again and again and again and again. You paid all this money, you spent all this time on nofap, trying to study, trying to understand the problem, yet you've engaged again, and therefore you feel that you lack self-trust in yourself, understandably, because you're still not able to stop. You're thinking, you're looking at these guys on nofap, you're looking at these guys in the programs or these testimonials of success stories, and you're thinking, well, they stopped, I tried it, but I can't do it. Maybe I'm just not good enough. What's wrong with me? And so you're thinking, well, I just don't trust myself right now. I can't trust myself to not watch porn. I can't trust myself to stop. And therefore, you understandably get into this situation where you just feel untrustworthy of yourself. Completely understandable. We're all there. I was definitely there at one point. And yeah, again, it's just the wiring, it's the mental wiring, it's the paradigm, it's the way that you look at the problem. And unfortunately, going through nofap, going through a lot of the traditional routes of trying to stop pornography to stay stopped, it doesn't actually serve you that well. This was one of the things that Tom and Mary brought to my attention, and I felt that in the early days of BCA, when I was learning the method, I understood and ascertained all this information, and a lot of it started to make sense, and the wires started to unwire slowly, and new sort of ways of thinking about this problem got installed, the new mental software installed, and I can think about this problem from a lot more of an accurate level, and then apply the tools, apply the 5-fact script which we use in BCA in order to deal with discomfort, deal with urges when they come up moment by moment. But look, as you can see, these three sort of layers, and there's many more to these, by the way, there's many more layers that we can add, but just these three is very sufficient enough to put you into a situation where you're second guessing yourself, you're not sure of what to do, you're pretty clueless because you can't stop this thing that you told yourself that you'd stop over and over and over again, time and time and time again. And inevitably you'd end up in a situation where you would feel like you're an imposter, you'd feel like you'd be in imposter syndrome, you can't trust yourself, and therefore in work, in these other areas of your life, in relationships, in career, in learning new skills, you're usually going into these things with a mental frame that, again, you feel perhaps a bit untrustworthy and unreliable in order to develop yourself as a person. The issue is here that, yes, that is imposter syndrome working in full swing. However, in the context of this problem, it really is just a matter of rewiring these neural pathways, really understanding that this way of thinking, this paradigm of how you're viewing the world right now, it can be absolutely be changed. The mental model can be changed, the new mental software can be installed, and again, you can deal with urges when they come up, deal with these feelings of discomfort when they come up, and you can confidently take a position of strength and power in order to get to the other side of an urge, or the other side of the discomfort, with sure knowledge that you're going to be okay, that you're going to be able to handle this, and that you've got the tools to do so. Guys, if you've been watching this channel for a little bit now, you'll know that there's a 15-minute call in the link below. Bring all your questions, bring all your doubts. I understand how important it is for you to solve this problem in your life, as it was important for me when I was trying to solve this problem. So if you're ready, get your questions, jump on a call with the 15-minute calling below, and yeah, we'll see if BCA is the right fit for you.